The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It skittered across the coffee table like it had a life of its own, vibrating in short, sharp bursts. Mom. Then Dad. Then Tyler. Again. And again. And again. It was like watching the same terrible sitcom rerun over and over, except this wasn't funny. Not even close. I didn't reach for it. Didn't answer. Didn't flinch. I just sat back against the worn leather of my second-hand couch, arms crossed, eyes fixed on that little screen dancing across the wood like it might explode if I ignored it long enough. 6 months. That's how long it had been since I walked out of that house for the last time. No shouting. No slammed doors. No dramatics. I'd simply picked up my duffel bag, stuffed in a few clothes and my laptop, and left. Calm as can be. Done. Completely done. At the time, I thought that would be the end of it. They told me not to come back, and I took them at their word. Simple, right? But here they were, months later, blowing up my phone like I'd ghosted them on Christmas, like I owed them my soul all over again, like I hadn't spent the last decade playing the role of their unpaid therapist, errand runner, and personal banker. I leaned back into the cushions, let out a slow breath, and smiled, just a little, just enough to feel it in my chest. That twist of dark satisfaction, because this chaos was proof that I'd finally done it. I'd finally shaken them. They didn't own me anymore. Not like they used to. And yet the buzzing continued. Persistent. Desperate. A digital reminder of everything I had escaped, and everything I still hadn't truly left behind. If you're reading this, or listening, I guess, you're probably wondering how I got here. How a 29-year-old finance analyst, the good daughter who never once caused a scene, ended up ghosting her own parents and turning off her phone like they were just another scam caller. Well, buckle up, because it's not the kind of story you can wrap up in a few neat lines. No, this one's messy, ugly, and exactly the kind of thing I wish someone had told me could happen when you love your family more than they'll ever love you back. My name is Jordan Evans. Born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was the straight A student, the one who got herself into college with scholarships and midnight shifts. The girl who never drank in high school, never skipped class, never gave my parents a single reason to worry. Meanwhile, my older brother Tyler, well, let's just say he lived a very different life, and they adored him for it. But we'll get to that. All of it. The favoritism, the gaslighting, the financial drain, the day they told me I was ungrateful and kicked me out of the house I was secretly paying for, and how that day set off the first real breath I'd taken in years. Right now, what you need to know is this. I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because I was done. Because sometimes the only way to love yourself is to stop loving the people who keep bleeding you dry. And today, as I sat in my small one-bedroom apartment with my phone lighting up like a slot machine, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. The power to do absolutely nothing. I let the phone buzz. Let it scream in silence. Let it remind me how far I'd come. And I didn't move an inch. Because for once, they were the ones panicking. Not me. And God, that felt good. I wasn't born into chaos. It crept in slowly, like water leaking through the cracks in the foundation. At first, it just felt uneven. Slightly off. Like maybe I was imagining things. That maybe I was too sensitive. That maybe love really did come with conditions. You just had to meet them right, consistently, quietly. I was 8 when I first noticed it. Tyler broke a neighbor's window with a baseball bat, and Mom rushed to defend him before the glass even stopped falling. He didn't mean to, she cried, hugging him like he was the one who'd been hurt. Dad paid for the damages without blinking. No grounding. No scolding, just a sad smile and a pat on the head. A week later, I accidentally knocked over a vase while cleaning, and the look Mom gave me could have sliced stone. You're better than this, Jordan, she hissed. Don't disappoint me again. That became the refrain of my childhood. You're better than this. Be the example. Tyler's struggling right now. He needs support. Tyler was always struggling. From age 10 to 33, that never changed. He flunked out of high school twice. Mom blamed the teachers. He quit college after a semester. Dad said the curriculum wasn't a good fit. He floated from job to job like a leaf on water, never staying anywhere long enough to be held accountable. And through all of it, he was coddled, protected, understood. I, on the other hand, was the rock. At 16, I got my first job at a fast food joint down the street. I'd come home smelling like grease and tired to the bone, but no one asked how my day went. They were too busy calming Tyler after his latest life crisis. When I got a full-ride scholarship to Ohio State, Dad grunted, "That's good," and went back to his paper. Mom didn't even look up from her soap opera. But when Tyler posted an out-of-focus photo of himself standing outside a community college 2 years later, they printed it and framed it like it was a diploma. I didn't get a celebration. I got expectations. You see, in our house, love wasn't given, it was earned. And even then, only sometimes. I learned how to stay quiet, how to be useful, how to make myself small when Tyler needed the spotlight, and how to expand just enough when Mom needed someone to complain to about how hard life was. I paid the bills on time, got straight A's, kept the fridge stocked when no one else would. I didn't ask for help because I knew it wouldn't come. But deep down, I kept hoping that maybe if I just held it all together long enough, they'd finally see me. Not as the backup plan, not as the safety net, but as their daughter, their equal. Spoiler, they never did. And Tyler? He didn't have to lift a finger. Not when I was always 2 steps ahead, catching what he dropped. Not when Mom insisted he just needed more time to find his path, and Dad mumbled about how the world's harder on boys nowadays. I was building a life brick by brick, and Tyler was drawing stick figures in the dirt, and somehow I was still the one being asked to slow down, to wait, to help, to give, and I did. For years, I told myself it was strength, that being needed meant I mattered, that love in our family looked like utility. But now, looking back, I realized that I wasn't loved. I was used. Every good grade, every late-night shift, every quiet sacrifice, it just made them expect more. Not appreciate more, just expect. So when you hear me say that walking away wasn't easy, believe me, it wasn't. I was trained from childhood to stay, to fix, to absorb. But even the strongest foundation can crack when the weight's not shared. And mine had been crumbling for years. It started with $20. Mom called one evening while I was finishing a report for my boss. "Hey, sweetie, we're a little short on the electric bill. Can you help us out just this once?" Her voice was soft, sweet, practiced. I didn't even hesitate. "Of course, Mom." I transferred the money before she could finish thanking me. That was the first time. The second came a week later. "Your dad forgot to do the groceries again," she sighed. "Could you pick up a few things? Just the basics, nothing fancy." And like the idiot daughter desperate for approval, I showed up with 4 full bags, fresh produce, meat, even the almond milk she liked. Then came the gas bill, the broken faucet, that we're behind on the mortgage, but it's just temporary. And suddenly, just this once became, "We'll pay you back soon," which evolved into, "We'd do it for you." But they never did. I started keeping track, first in my head, then in a spreadsheet. I was covering almost everything. Electric, gas, groceries, even most of the mortgage. Meanwhile, Tyler sat on the living room couch, controller in hand, playing video games like he was auditioning for a speedrun championship. No job, no rent, no shame. And every time I asked, every time, Mom's voice would get that trembling edge. Tyler's trying his best," she'd whisper, like I was the villain for noticing reality. Dad would shrug, half asleep in his recliner, muttering, "We're lucky to have you, kiddo." As if that was gratitude. I told myself it was fine, that I could handle it. After all, I was the one with the job, the apartment, the salary. Tyler was still figuring things out, apparently into his 30s. But the truth? I was bleeding, quietly, steadily. My weekends vanished into errands for them, grocery runs, bill payments, car maintenance. My paychecks disappeared into their accounts. And every month I told myself the same lie. They'll get back on their feet soon. But soon never came. Instead, I got eye rolls from Tyler when I brought up budgeting. I got guilt trips from Mom about how hard things have been since the recession. I got cold silences from Dad when I didn't send money fast enough. And I started to change. I got quieter, more resentful. I began dreading their phone calls, not because I didn't care, but because I already knew what they were going to say. I could hear the scripts in my head before they even opened their mouths. It wasn't communication anymore, it was a pattern of extraction. And yet, I kept going. I kept helping, even when I couldn't afford to. I dipped into my emergency fund, canceled a trip I'd been planning for months, stopped putting money toward my student loans. I was burning my future to keep their present afloat. And still, they looked at me like it was expected, like it was normal, like I owed them for giving birth to me. One day, I came over with groceries after a double shift and found Tyler lounging shirtless in the kitchen, eating ice cream from the tub. "You didn't get the good cereal?" he asked, not even bothering to thank me. That was the moment I felt something twist inside me. Not rage, not sadness, just something calcify, because I realized I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the lifeline, the wallet, the fix. They didn't love me for who I was. They loved me for what I provided. And the more I gave, the less they saw me. It wasn't physical abuse. It wasn't loud or violent or dramatic. It was quieter than that, colder. A kind of parasitic love wrapped in "you're such a good daughter," and "we're just going through a tough time." But tough times don't last forever. And at some point I had to ask, why do they expect me to stay poor? Just so they can pretend they're not. It was a Sunday in early October. The air had that brutal chill that made your bones ache before the sun even finished rising. I had just wrapped up a 70-hour week at the firm. Spreadsheets, back-to-back meetings, late-night client calls. My eyes were fried. My back ached. My bank account was still smarting from the last $600 I'd wired Mom for emergency utilities. But still, I showed up. Groceries in both arms, keys between my teeth, trying not to drop the bag of apples or the oat milk Mom liked even though no one else drank it. The porch light was on, which was weird. It was broad daylight. But I didn't think much of it. I pushed the door open with my hip, stepped into the house I grew up in, the house I'd been secretly keeping from foreclosure for 2 years, and immediately knew something was wrong. They were waiting for me. Mom sat on the edge of the living room couch, arms crossed, jaw tight. That look she saved for teachers who gave Tyler detention. Dad stood just behind her, hands in his pockets, face blank. Tyler was sprawled on the other couch, one foot on the coffee table, tapping away at his phone like he hadn't seen me. "No, hi, Jordan." "No, thanks for the groceries." Just silence, heavy, condensed, measured. I set the bags down slowly. "What's going on?" I asked. Mom didn't blink. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Dad stepped forward, voice casual, almost rehearsed. "We've been thinking. It's time you start contributing more." I stared at him. "Contributing more?" You make good money," Mom cut in. "It's not fair that we're barely scraping by while you're off living in your own place, spending your paycheck however you want." Something in my chest snapped clean in half. "I've been covering your mortgage," I said, voice low but shaking. "For 2 years. That's not enough." Mom scoffed. "A few bills here and there, that's hardly. My hands clenched at my sides. Groceries, utilities, rent, gas, insurance, all of it. Tyler doesn't pay a dime. He's 33 and hasn't had a job since 2019. But I'm the problem because I dared to move out and live like a functioning adult." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Jesus, Jordan, it's just money. They've done a lot for us." I snapped my head toward him. "Us? Tyler, what part of us do you belong to when I'm the only one footing the bill?" That was it. Mom stood. her face hardening like stone. Don't talk to your brother like that. He's trying his best. I let out a laugh, so dry it burned. Really? Because from where I'm standing, his best looks like playing Fortnite in his underwear while I pay for your electricity. Dad's voice cut through, sharp and cold. Enough. We're asking you to step up. If you were a good daughter, you'd take responsibility. This house is too much for us to manage alone. And there it was. The line. The line they'd drawn with their entitlement, their guilt-tripping, their refusal to see me as anything but a utility. I inhaled. Slow. Deliberate. Let me get this straight, I said. You want me to pay the mortgage in full, cover all the bills, and keep pretending like Tyler isn't sitting here doing absolutely nothing. Again. And you don't see anything wrong with that? Mom's mouth thinned. We just thought, as our daughter, you'd want to help your family. And what's Tyler? I snapped. A houseplant. Tyler bolted upright. I hate you. I didn't ask for this. No, I said, but you sure as hell benefited from it. Then Mom's voice exploded. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. And for a second, everything stopped. Time. Breathing. The world itself. I looked around the room, at the furniture I helped pay for, the lights I kept on, the people I gave everything to, and felt nothing. No sadness. No guilt. Just clarity. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, opened it. The air outside hit my face like a slap, cold and clean. I turned back just once. Okay, I said, and then I left. No yelling, no speech, no drama, just done. And as I stepped off the porch, I realized for the first time in my life, they needed me more than I ever needed them. The first night in my apartment, I sat on the floor and cried. Not because I was sad, not because I missed them. I cried because it was the first time in years that no one needed anything from me. No bills in my inbox from Mom. No missed calls from Dad. No text from Tyler saying, "Can you Venmo me real quick?" It was just me, a bare room, a mattress on the floor, a second-hand lamp, and peace. Real, complete, aching peace. I remember looking at the ceiling and thinking, is this what quiet sounds like? Because for so long, silence in my parents' house meant danger. Mom sulking, Dad waiting to scold, Tyler pouting because I didn't drop everything to help him. Every moment of peace there came with the tension of the next demand, the next sigh, the next favor. But now, the silence was mine. It wasn't weaponized. It wasn't bait. It wasn't a warning. It just was. I didn't answer their calls that week, or the next. At first, they came like clockwork, twice a day, sometimes 3. Mom left voicemails, each one dripping with guilt and performative sorrow. I know we had a disagreement, but this is childish, Jordan. Dad followed with his usual rational nonsense. Let's talk this out. You can't just cut off your family. And Tyler, of course, sent one text. Don't be a bitch. I blocked them all. It wasn't permanent, at least. That's what I told myself. I just needed space. Time. Oxygen. But 1 week turned into 2, then a month. And then the silence stopped feeling strange. It started to feel necessary. I started cooking again. Sleeping. Saving money. I bought a plant and didn't kill it. I remembered what it felt like to go an entire weekend without panicking about someone else's needs. I was still working long hours, still pushing myself at the firm, but when I got home, it was my home. And no one was waiting with a list of expectations taped to the fridge. There were moments of guilt, sure. Usually when I passed by a family in the park or saw someone FaceTiming their mom on the subway, I'd feel that little pull in my chest. Was I being cruel? Cold? Ungrateful, like Mom said? But then I'd remember. All those nights, they slept soundly while I stayed up crunching numbers to make sure their lights didn't go out. All those days I canceled plans, drained savings, ignored red flags just to keep them afloat. All those times I cried in the bathroom after wiring money I didn't have. And the guilt would melt into something else. Something harder, sharper, resolve. Because for all the love I poured into them, all I got back was obligation. They loved me the way a leech loves a vein, only as long as the blood keeps coming. So I stopped the bleeding, and in that stillness, something new started growing. Confidence, maybe, or just the slow, quiet realization that I had value outside of what I could give. I made friends. I went to the movies alone. I bought a new blazer without justifying the cost to anyone. I rediscovered what it felt like to wake up on a Sunday and not drive across town with grocery bags and a fake smile. For the first time in my adult life, I had nothing to prove, no performance to give, no roles to play, just Jordan, just me, and it was glorious. Until one morning, 6 months to the day, I woke up to a message from Dad. "Why haven't you paid the mortgage this month?" There it was, the punchline. After all this time, after they kicked me out, cut me off, cursed my name, they still assumed I'd be paying. As if my silence was just a phase. As if I was still on autopilot, quietly sending checks, being the good daughter behind the curtain. I stared at the message for a long moment, then smiled. Not soft, not sad, the kind of smile that comes when you realize you're not the one drowning anymore, and you finally let go of the rope. I typed back, "Oh, I thought I wasn't welcome," and hit send. Then I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and waited for the storm. The reply didn't take long. First came Dad's text. "Jordan, this is serious. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Please call me." Then Mom, "What is wrong with you? We're late on the mortgage. The bank called us, Jordan." And finally, Tyler, ever the eloquent one. "Dude, seriously? You're gonna let them lose the house just to prove a point?" I didn't answer. I didn't even blink. I just watched the screen light up again and again, like a machine on the verge of short-circuiting. I let the chaos spin, let it stew. 6 months. 6 months of silence, and they thought I was still on the hook, still theirs. It was funny, not in a ha-ha way, more like watching a magician realize the rabbit's gone from the hat and he has no more tricks. They were unraveling, and for once, I wasn't holding the thread, but curiosity got the better of me. I called the bank, put on my most professional voice, polite, concerned, vaguely apologetic. "Hi, this is Jordan Evans. I used to handle my parents' mortgage payments, but I've recently stopped. I just wanted to check the account status." A pause. A hold. Some keyboard clicking in the background. Then the rep returned with a line that landed like a slap. "Ma'am, the account has been delinquent for nearly 8 months." 8 months. I blinked, sat perfectly still, did the math. That meant even before I left, even when I was still wiring hundreds of dollars a month to them, they weren't paying the mortgage. They were pocketing the money. I swallowed hard, thanked the rep, and hung up. Then I laughed. Quiet, bitter, too sharp to be joy. They'd been letting the house drown the whole time, and used me as the bucket. All those late-night transfers, all those paychecks chipped away for their temporary struggles. And they never even used it for what they said. They just watched the hole widen and figured I'd keep patching it with duct tape and devotion. I called Tyler. He picked up on the first ring. "Jordan, finally. We need you to fix this. Where did the money go?" I asked flat. A pause. "What?" "The mortgage. I was sending money for months, and the bank says the last full payment was 8 months ago. Where did it go?" He stammered. I don't know. That's not my thing. Mom and Dad handled it." "Oh, come on," I snapped. "You live there. You didn't notice the letters piling up? The red stamps on envelopes? You didn't think it was weird I was sending thousands of dollars, and somehow the power was still flickering?" "Look," he said, suddenly defensive. "They needed help, all right? Things got tight. It's not like you were struggling. You don't get to say that." I cut in. "You don't get to act like my success is the reason I should bleed dry." He huffed. "You're being cruel." "No," I said with the coldest clarity I'd ever felt. I'm letting you face the consequences of your own stupidity. Big difference. I hung up. Then Mom called, and like a fool I answered. Her voice came through high-pitched and desperate. How dare you, Jordan? You know we need help. The bank is threatening to take the house. I stayed calm. And you thought lying to me for months was the best way to secure that help. It wasn't like that, she snapped. Tyler's been struggling. You don't understand. Struggling? I laughed. He's been struggling for a decade. You know who else struggled? Me. Working night shifts, skipping vacations, paying your bills while you smiled and nodded like I was your personal ATM. Dad got on the line, his voice low, measured. Jordan, we just need help this month. Just this one time. We're behind, yes, but if you can sell the house, I said. Silence. Then Mom, shrill, we can't. This is our family home. Then it should have mattered enough to pay for it, I replied. Dad inhaled sharply. Please, sweetheart, be reasonable. We just need support, not judgment. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. No, what you need is accountability. We're your parents, he said softly. You will help us. I smiled. Looks like you'll have to figure this one out without me. And I ended the call. The phone buzzed again, instantly. More texts, more voicemails, more desperation. But I didn't care. Tight-leet. They'd used me. They gambled my love and bet against my spine. And they lost. I didn't answer any more calls that night. I let them come. Mom's fury, Dad's pleading, Tyler's snide voicemails. The phone buzzed like it had a vendetta, thrashing on the table like a wounded animal. And I just sat there watching them scramble the way I used to. It felt good. Not triumphant, exactly, but clean, like pulling out a thorn that had been buried too deep for too long. For the first time, I wasn't the one panicking. Wasn't the one trying to fix a mess I didn't make. I was done playing savior in a story that never cared if I bled. Eventually, I picked up the phone, not to talk but to type. To Mom, funny. You keep asking what kind of daughter I am, but I'm not the one who stopped paying the mortgage. I'm not the one who hid it for months. Maybe it's time you deal with your own mess. I sent it and let it sit. 5 minutes later, Dad called. I let it ring, then picked up on the third try. His voice was softer this time. Not desperate, exhausted. Jordan, this isn't you. We raised you better than this. I laughed, short and bitter. No, you raised me to be useful. You raised me to keep my head down and open my wallet. You raised me to believe that if I just gave enough, maybe one day you'd actually see me. He was quiet for a long beat. Then, finally, he cracked. We're sorry, Jordan. We messed up. But please, we need your help. We won't make it without you. I leaned back, stared at the ceiling, and let his words hang in the air. You said that before, I replied. Every time. You said you'd pay me back, that things would change, that it was just this once. But all I ever did was hold up the foundation while the rest of you took naps. We didn't mean to take advantage, but you did, I snapped. You took and took until there was nothing left of me but spreadsheets and late payments and empty weekends. He sounded small, broken. I'm sorry. Then show it, I said. Fix it yourselves. There was another pause. Then he whispered, Jordan, this is everything. The house, it's all we have. I almost felt something. Almost. But then I remembered all the times they let me carry the weight alone. All the times I asked for nothing, and still they made me feel like a burden when I couldn't give more. No, I said, it's all you have, because you never built anything of your own. You just drained it from me. I'm begging you. And I'm saying no. I hung up. The phone exploded again, texts pouring in like a dam had burst. From Mom, you don't understand. You'll regret this. From Tyler, nice job. You're destroying everything. Real classy, Jordan. From Dad, please. We'll pay you back. We swear. Just help us this once. But it was too late. They weren't asking for help. They were asking for another lifeline, another extension of the lie. I typed one final reply to all three of them in a group message this time. No more hiding. You had years to be honest. You had months to ask without lying. You chose this, not me. I'm not your bailout plan. I'm your daughter, and you treated me like a paycheck. And then I blocked them, not out of anger, out of necessity. I needed to close the loop, to put a period at the end of a sentence that had dragged on far too long. Because every time I picked up that phone, every time I listened to them spin their webs of guilt and panic, I forgot what I'd already learned. That peace doesn't beg for attention, and real love doesn't bankrupt you. I sat in the quiet that followed, heart pounding, hand shaking, but it wasn't fear this time. It was freedom. The silence after blocking them wasn't as satisfying as I'd imagined. It was heavy, thick, like the pause after a slammed door, the kind that echoes longer than it should. I stretched out on my couch, phone face down on the table, TV playing something I wasn't really watching. For the first time in years, no one could reach me. No one could drain me. But in the quiet, doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? Should I have offered a compromise? Found some middle ground before torching the bridge? I mean, they are my parents. Tyler's still my brother. And the house, the one they're about to lose, it holds my childhood too. Birthday balloons taped to the kitchen cabinets. My high school graduation picture in the hallway. The scar on the doorframe from when I tripped racing Tyler to the fridge. But that's the trick, isn't it? Memory disguises itself as meaning. You start to confuse sentiment with safety. You start to think, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Except it was. It was exactly that bad. They lied to me. Repeatedly. They took my money for months, years, and never told me the truth. They chose to let the house slip into default while I was still paying for it, and then expected me to clean up the mess after they kicked me out. No explanation. No apology. Just a demand. And when I said no, suddenly I was ungrateful. Cold. Cruel. But tell me, what kind of love demands your financial ruin in return for affection? What kind of family threatens you with guilt when they've already weaponized every sacrifice you've ever made? I didn't abandon them. They abandoned me the second they stopped seeing me as a daughter and started seeing me as a backup plan. And maybe that's what hurts most. Not the lies, not the money, but the realization that to them I was never Jordan. I was a job title, a debit card, a safety net with a smile. I turned the TV off. Let the quiet settle again. This time I didn't fight it, because the truth is I don't regret walking away. I regret not doing it sooner. I regret every time I ignored that tight feeling in my chest when Mom asked for just one more favor. Every time I skipped a vacation, canceled dinner with friends, avoided checking my balance because I knew they'd call again. I regret the years I spent thinking love meant sacrifice without limits. But I don't regret saying no. Not this time. Not anymore. Still, part of me wonders, will I look back years from now and feel guilt when I see that house boarded up? When I hear they had to move into a tiny rental, sell off furniture, downsize their lives, will Tyler finally be forced to grow up? Or will he just find another woman to drain? Will they ever understand what they lost? Or will I always be the villain in their version of this story? I don't know, and maybe I never will. But what I do know is this: I'm breathing easier, sleeping better, laughing more. My savings account isn't a war zone anymore. My weekends belong to me again. I'm discovering what it means to exist without constantly performing usefulness. And that feeling is worth every missed call, every angry text, every "how dare you?" Because I dared. I dared to say no. I dared to walk away. I dared to live like my value wasn't tethered to what I could give away. So here I am, alone, free, and wondering, what do you think? Was I too harsh? Did I let my anger cloud a chance to repair what was broken? Or did I finally do the only thing I could to survive? Let me know. because this story, it's mine, but I think it might be yours too.